All right, let's just jump right in. We usually think that having more money means you can buy, well, nicer, more expensive stuff. Simple, right? But what if the complete opposite was also true? What if having less money actually makes your life more expensive? It sounds crazy, I know. But today we're going to dig into the really strange and kind of brutal math of what it means to be broke.
Yeah, just let that one sit for a minute. The most expensive lifestyle choice you never consciously made. Wow. I mean, this quote just cuts right to the core of what we're talking about today. It completely flips the script, right? It's saying that being in a tough spot financially isn't about making a bunch of bad choices. It's more like being forced into this incredibly expensive way of living. And that's a really powerful way to think about a problem that, let's be real, affects millions and millions of people.
So, this is the big question we're tackling. It really does sound like a riddle, doesn't it? How on earth can having less money end up costing you more? It feels like it breaks the laws of, I don't know, logic. But as you're about to see, it's not a paradox, not at all. It's just cold, hard, unforgiving math. Okay, let's break this down. We'll start with something super simple, an everyday example that pretty much all of us have seen. This is where those hidden costs, they start to creep in, and you'll find them right there in the aisles of your local supermarket. So it all boils down to this thing called economies of scale. It sounds fancy, but it's not. Think about it. If you've got the cash on hand, you can grab that huge family-sized bottle of laundry detergent, right? And when you do, the price you're paying for each wash, the cost per ounce, is way lower. You're saving money over time. But what if you only have a few bucks until your next paycheck? Well, then you're stuck buying the tiny bottle, and that tiny bottle has a much, much higher cost per ounce. You're basically being charged a fee, a penalty, just for not having enough money in your pocket right at that moment. And get this is the real kicker. We're not just talking about a couple of cents here and there. For some basic things you need every day, you could end up paying up to 4 times more for the same stuff. I mean, think about that. You're getting the exact same product, but you're paying this huge premium just because you had to buy the smaller size. Okay, so this poverty penalty starts at the grocery store, but believe me, it doesn't end there. It scales up from these small, everyday purchases into something way bigger, something baked into the system itself. And the next stop on this journey? The bank. You've probably heard of overdraft fees, right? They're a perfect example of this. An overdraft fee is literally a penalty for running out of money. I mean, if you've got a nice, comfortable buffer in your checking account, you're probably never, ever going to pay one. By its very design, it's a fee that only targets people who have low balances. It's basically a tax on being broke. And we're not talking about a small fee. The average cost for just one overdraft in the US is 34 bucks. Now, for someone who is watching every single dollar, one tiny slip up, a bill gets paid a day before your paycheck hits, a simple math error, that one mistake can trigger a fee that totally wrecks your budget, not just for the week, but maybe for the whole month. And then when you pull back and look at the big picture, it's just mind-boggling. All those individual $34 fees, they add up to the tune of $11 billion a year. This isn't some minor problem. This is a massive industry built on a system that pulls money systematically from the pockets of the people who have the least. And this quote from the source material just nails it. This is wealth redistribution in reverse. Think about that. Instead of a system that helps people get back on their feet, it's one that actively takes money from the people who are struggling the most and funnels it upwards to massive financial companies. So, okay, we've got these small penalties at the store, right? And these big penalties at the bank. But what happens when they start working together? Well, that's when they create this cycle, a trap that can feel absolutely impossible to break out of. It's what the source material calls a mathematical prison. And here's how that prison works. Imagine this. Something unexpected happens. Your car gets a flat tire, let's say. Just a bit of bad luck. But that one expense is enough to make your bank account go negative. Bam, you get hit with an overdraft fee. So now your next paycheck, which, let's be honest, was already going to be tight, is suddenly $34 smaller. That leaves you with even less of a safety net than before, which makes it even more likely that you'll overdraw again next month. You see? It's this vicious downward spiral, and it's all fueled by these fees. So, where does this leave us? What's the point of all this? Well, the most important thing to take away from this is that we need to change how we look at this problem. It's about shifting our focus away from blaming the person and toward understanding the system that they're stuck inside. And really, this is the heart of it all.
For way too long, we've talked about financial problems as if they're a character flaw, right? Like it's about someone being lazy or not trying hard enough. But as we've just laid out, so much of it is just math. It's a system designed in a way that the cost of just surviving is literally higher when you have less money. And that creates a trap that you can't just willpower your way out of. All right, so let's do a quick recap of what we've covered. First, we saw that not having cash to buy in bulk means you pay more for the basics. Simple as that. Second, we looked at how the banking system can pile on huge fees, specifically targeting people who have the least. And third, we saw how those two things team up to create a mathematical prison that is just incredibly difficult to break free from. And all of this brings us to one final, really big question. If we agree that being broke is a kind of mathematical trap, a systemic problem, then telling people to just pull themselves up by their bootstraps or try harder totally misses the point. The real question we should be asking is, how do we change the math? How do we actually redesign the maze itself? Now that's something to think about.